This is the December 2021 Astrological forecast by Kerry Shamblin. A written version of this forecast is available at my website, planetaryinfluence.com. The new moon in Scorpio, Jesta, will yield a total solar eclipse December 4th. The sun and moon join at 19 degrees Scorpio on December 4th. This is a total solar eclipse and will be visible mostly in the higher latitudes of the southern hemisphere. This eclipse highlights the sign of Scorpio, the enigmatic, deep, and complex eighth sign of the zodiac that is co-ruled by Mars and Ketu, two fiery planets. The paradox begins at this elemental level, as Scorpio is a water sign. Scorpio represents the initiation of the transformation from our base material existence to a more subtle spiritual awareness, which often requires effort, sacrifice, and sustained intention. Where the mysterious sign of Scorpio lands in a personal horoscope may point toward the type of transformations that may be in store in the near future. The eclipse pairing is currently in the Taurus-Scorpio axis, with the last eclipse on November 20th highlighting Taurus with a lunar eclipse at the full moon. What was revealed during that time? Being a lunar eclipse, this could have felt as if the mind opened to new information or emotions that were previously inaccessible. Shadows can obscure, but this opens up other avenues for revelation, for connecting with information in a differently lighted way for a short time, which allows for seeing things that aren't always apparent during normal times. Lunar eclipses may affect our minds more, as the moon is the significator for mental and emotional activity. This solar eclipse may bring forth information that affects at a heart and soul level. In particular, it is caused by Ketu, whose only purpose is to liberate our minds from patterns and situations that bind us. While we're not promising a painless transformation inspired by this solar eclipse, the end goal is always to come out the other end with deeper understanding and a sense of power that comes from experiencing true freedom. This eclipse grouping occurs in Scorpio, a sign co-ruled by Mars and Ketu, but more specifically in the nakshatra of Jesta, which spans the last 13 degrees 20 minutes of Scorpio and is ruled by Mercury. This is the runway toward the Gandanta that lies between Scorpio and Sagittarius, offering us the challenge of rectifying the parts of our lives that hold us in the physical and mental realms. Meeting this challenge opens us up to making the tricky adjustments that enable the integration of spirituality into our earthly experiences. No small task, but this type of eclipse event in this particular slice of the zodiac invites us to enter into that arena. Pro tip: we love to work on ourselves to enforce deep changes. Allow the eclipse to lighten the load by showing us that less is more. Mars transits Scorpio, December 4th through January 16th. Just after the solar eclipse, Mars also moves signs, shifting from Venus's sign of Libra and into his own sign of Scorpio, joining Ketu, Sun, Moon, and Mercury. After all of this talk of transformation, deep changes, and letting go, Mars's entrance into Scorpio is a game changer, as he offers us the strength and courage to actually step into the new paradigms which arise naturally when we allow change to proceed. After the eclipse excitement, we'll begin to see shifts coming our way, ready or not. As Mars makes his way into Scorpio, there will be a few different phases. Things become a bit less crowded with Mercury's exit to Sagittarius on December 9th. Then, Mars makes a conjunction with Ketu on December 13th. after which our new resolutions inspired by the recent eclipse cycle could begin to take form. Mars conjoined Ketu means an exact aspect from Rahu. Look out for amplified aggression during the second week in December. After December 14th, Mars begins to move away from the nodal axis, which could relax the energy somewhat. On December 15th, the Sun exits Scorpio, leaving Mars and Ketu alone in their sign for a month until Mars moves to Sagittarius on January 16th. Takeaway from Mars and Scorpio. This is an intense transit. The power potential is great. Just make sure to pay attention to details, as the mistake and mishap potential is also significant. Mars moving to Scorpio not only removes Saturn's aspect from Mars, but also takes Mars's aspect from Saturn. This generally signals times ahead where we may enjoy some forward progress without such a stop-start rhythm. Since dear Saturn won't have his eyes on Mars until late February, it is up to us to remember that we do have breaks and should know how to use them at the appropriate moments. Venus enters Capricorn December 8th. On December 8th and 9th, we have our dynamic duo, Venus and Mercury, both changing signs. They are currently about one sign apart, which bodes well for the moving forward trajectory that many are happy to be on at the moment. Venus moves from Jupiter's fire sign of Sagittarius into Saturn's earth sign of Capricorn. While Venus does well in Sagittarius, moving through Capricorn is also a decent path for Venus, as she is a friend of Saturn, who also occupies Capricorn at this time. However, this flowing forward on a new trajectory that we're all excited about may hit a few twists and turns, as Venus will be coming into a retrograde cycle from December 19th through January of 2022. Venus takes retrograde motion at 3 degrees Capricorn on December 19th, which will return her to Sagittarius on December 29th. Venus regains direct motion at 17 degrees Sagittarius on January 29th, 2022. Venus retrograde periods always feel like an opportunity to rewire our creative pursuits, artistic expression, relationships, wardrobes, and social connections. For people who have strong placements in the sign of Capricorn and Sagittarius, this particular retrograde period may be energized in this direction. We can add the opposite signs, Cancer and Gemini, into the mix due to Venus's power of strong opposition. Since Venus's near future involves gliding between two different signs, let's assess the conditions in both positions. Sagittarius, Jupiter's fire sign, is currently a safe haven, but with conditions. Venus functions gracefully in Sagittarius, almost as if Venus won the contest of the Scorpio-Sagittarius Gandanta, teaching us that water and fire can be a harmonious dynamic. At the current time, Sagittarius is not receiving any difficult aspects from Saturn, Mars, or the nodes, which creates a level of peace and prosperity. Sagittarius is between a rock and a hard place at this time, though, with Saturn and Ketu flanking on either side, strong and in dignity. We could see this as either pressure or structure, depending on our personal orientation. Capricorn is currently occupied by its own lord, Saturn. This strengthens both the planet and the sign, and again, depending on personal orientation, this could manifest as a solid foundation from which to launch, or as a strong barricade that separates you from your goal. Venus is a friend to Saturn, and will function well in Capricorn, but does receive the aspect of Rahu, who is also a friend of Venus, but with the habit of rocking the boat. With Team Saturn strong, we may find that Venus, while in Capricorn, affords us an increase in political engagement aimed at Saturn, Rahu, Venus type of goals, with the themes of equality and social responsibility. Rahu in the mix always ensures instability of some kind, which, with proper strategy, can be used advantageously. Let's review dates for Venus in these signs in the upcoming months. Venus in Capricorn, December 8th through the 29th. Venus will go retrograde December 19th. Venus in Sagittarius from December 29th, 2021 through February 26th, 2022. Venus will go direct January 29th. And then Venus in Capricorn, February 26th through March 30th, 2022. While the inner planets will sweep through Scorpio, through Aquarius during this time, moving past Venus as she makes her changes, the outer planets remain static. That means no touch from Rahu and Saturn while in Sagittarius, contrasted with the strong presence of Rahu and Saturn while in Capricorn. Strong presence of Rahu and Saturn can feel much like standing in a cold place with a strong wind. Much can be revealed, but to maintain focus, one needs protection, clothing, and shelter. And to maintain vitality, one needs both luck and preparation with their food. Venus assumes retrograde status only 11 days after entering this wind tunnel. Knowing this, prepare to endure this stormy weather because it is temporary and will reveal a plethora of truths that are begging for expression. This will be the Venus and Capricorn preview section from December 8th through the 29th. More on the Venus and Sagittarius section for the January forecast, but in brief, this is the planned retreat after stepping out into the windy world. This covers roughly the first 2 months of 2022. On January 8th, 2022, Venus reaches inferior conjunction with the Sun and will be lost from our sight totally. Venus regains direct motion on January 29th. By mid-March, we begin to see Venus once again, appearing in the eastern sky before dawn. Venus gets really brilliant during these retrograde phases. During the first week of December, Venus will be at its brightest for the year, going out of the evening star phase in a lovely blaze of glory. As Venus moves toward the retrograde motion, her forward movement is slowing down considerably, which corresponds with this condition of extra brightness. After sunset in the western sky, be sure to send your love to Venus as she embarks on her transformational journey. You're invited to go. Mercury transits Sagittarius from December 9th through the 28th. As Venus exits Sagittarius, Mercury enters, likely happy to enjoy the protected yet strongly structured current state in Jupiter's expansive fire sign. For any of the planets passing through Sagittarius during this time, the condition of its lord, Jupiter, is quite telling. Jupiter's current transit is through Aquarius, free of Rahu and Saturn's aspect, but fully running through their wild territory. While life is never without danger, Jupiter is enjoying some relatively lighter terrain, which is allowing the sign of Aquarius to rise up, and also Jupiter to push his positivity into all of the air signs, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. In Mercury's case, Like his friend Venus, he will also be spending quite a bit of time in the signs of Sagittarius and Capricorn in the next few months. So the above descriptions of conditions in those signs can be applied to Mercury as well. Mercury, like Venus, is in friendly company and territory, while in Capricorn, it's a well-known hangout of Team Saturn, which includes Rahu, Venus, and Mercury. But for December, with Venus getting into the backstage mode, Mercury and Sagittarius could feel quite eager to reconnect with studies, teachers, visits to holy places, and spiritual practices. Heeding this call could be quite grounding for the upcoming months, which, due to Jupiter's trajectory, could provide some positive growth opportunities. Mercury is our negotiator, diagnostic expert, market manager, and analyst. While in Sagittarius, Mercury is squeezed between the practical reality of lack, symbolized by Saturn and Capricorn, and the blind, fated, obstacle-ridden terrain of Ketu and Scorpio. This is a great time to get an objective analysis of the current blockages, puzzles, problems, debts, and responsibilities, and try to come up with workable solutions and methods to feed the many needs. The Sun transits Sagittarius, December 15th through January 14th. The Sun follows the messenger, Mercury, into Sagittarius on December 15th, maintaining his steady pace through the zodiac and moving to Capricorn on January 14th, 2022. First, let's see where this leaves the signs of Scorpio and Taurus after the eclipses. After Jupiter moved out of Capricorn on November 20th, the Sun was holding the line alone against a very strong Rahu. When the Sun steps aside in mid-December, joining Mercury in his 2022 planning project, this leaves Mars alone with Ketu in their own sign, and Rahu still strongly projecting into all of the Earth signs. The point is that Rahu, without the Sun and Jupiter's guidance, could become especially active. This translates as an increase in the unexpected, which is always difficult to guard against. Stay grounded and alert, avoiding actions under duress and emotionally based choices. Like Mercury and soon Venus, Sun may enjoy this month in Sagittarius, taking refuge from the windy weather maintained by Rahu and Saturn. With how things are going outside, try to focus on how to finance your year ahead, with Mercury and Sun analyzing personal needs and account balances. This is a good month to count blessings, share generously, and humbly relax into a new cycle of growth. The Sun reaches its annual nadir at the winter solstice on December 21st, 2021. This is our collective in the northern hemisphere, beginning of the dark and cold winter seasons, and begins Uttarayana, where we observe the Sun moving from its weakest point toward its strongest, which comes at summer solstice. There's a full moon in Gemini, Mrigashira Nakshatra, on December 18th. With the Sun placed comfortably in Sagittarius, joining Mercury, the full moon of December 18th may feel quite cheerful and positive. The moon becomes full at 4 degrees Gemini, Mercury's air sign, which opposes Sagittarius, where the Sun sits at 4 degrees during their brief moment of opposition. The full moon is in the section of Gemini known as Mrigashira Nakshatra, ruled by Mars. There is a sense of restlessness and searching that comes with Mrigashira. This would be a good night to gaze at the moon and submit to the fancies of the imagination. If there is a lack of clarity about what may be next, indulge the mind by opening it up to new sources of inspiration and nourishment. After the shadow dance of the eclipse cycle, this will be a great time to recover, make adjustments to the trajectory, and take a rest from the intensity of difficult aspects that may have been prevalent. Mercury transits Capricorn, December 28th through March 6th, 2022. Continuing the emphasis on the signs of Sagittarius and Capricorn at this time, Mercury enters Capricorn on December 28th, joining Saturn. The oscillation of retrograde Venus between these two signs also occurs at this time. While Mercury enters, retrograde Venus passes Mercury at the threshold between these signs. With Mercury and Venus representing the concepts of enthusiasm, inspiration, and energetic action, we can see them as huge helpers in our day-to-day life, as they are the significators of communication, exchange, connection, creation, and relation. Sagittarius is lorded by Jupiter, who tends to push us toward growth, improvement, and wisdom. Sagittarius is an environment of rapid and purposeful expansion. Mercury's time here during December could be well spent in planning the year ahead. Capricorn is lorded by and currently occupied by Saturn, who pressures us into practicality, responsibility, and detachment. Capricorn is an environment of sustained effort and conscious contraction. With Mercury's entrance here, we can begin to put theory into practice. Finding a balance between the expansion of Jupiter and the contraction of Saturn is one of life's great pursuits. Together, these two planets weave the fabric of life on Earth, assisting us in learning how to manage and celebrate life's ups and downs. Mercury will spend nearly 10 weeks in Capricorn, which based on Mercury's average speed through a sign is quite an extended visit. Mercury is an energetic, flexible, and intelligent influence, but suffers from a lack of focus and discipline. Capricorn, under Saturn's stern gaze, will be a great place to harness Mercury's power. Plan ahead for this period of time. It will be supportive of serious efforts in communication projects, integrating health routines, and anything that requires a combination of discipline and analysis. Mercury will make a retrograde tour from January 13th through February 3rd, 2022, taking him back to that border between Sagittarius and Capricorn, but not quite dipping back to Capricorn. Let's focus on the details of this retrograde cycle in the January 2022 forecast. In the meantime, sincere best wishes to one and all as the holiday season descends upon us and the Western calendar flips over to our new year. Thank you for reading the forecast and supporting this work.